way to help the migrant crisis would be border checks, because that way we don't have to fear about Paris getting attacked and just in general terrorists just coming in, and we don't have to worry about us getting bombed or any other cities or countries.
I agree, because what happened was when Paris was attacked by the terrorists, one of them actually fled into the refugees, into the the crowds of refugees, and that's one of their escape routes, basically. And the way to solve that is border checks, because then you can know who's terrorist and who's not.
Yeah, because if they just let all of the migrants in, you don't know who you're letting in. So you're basically letting in killers and people who are possibly trying to hurt your country.
Okay, can I interject here, though? Some of these refugees, some of the terrorists who are coming in with the waves of refugees have false identification.
Yeah.
So, there's an enormous black market for all kinds of false identification. So border checks might not do everything that you think that they will do, but it's definitely a start.
Also though,
I mostly agree with Lauren, but I sort of disagree, because some of the terrorists were homegrown terrorists, so they could freely, because they had an EU citizenship and it was legitimate, they were freely going back and forth between Belgium and France.
Okay.
And they would have made it through borders because they're legitimate European citizens.
We're talking about the ones that live in the refugees.
But you're saying preventing bombings.
Yeah, but we're also talking about fixing the migrant crisis and not just preventing terrorism.
Yeah.
Look what happened in San Bernardino. Those are people, the man anyway was born in the United States. He's a United States citizen. He didn't need to come in with anyone. He was radicalized via, visiting Syria and also via the internet.
There's another thing where actually I've heard they do at the borders. Sometimes if they think you might be like a possible threat to the countries, they actually they don't arrest you, but they take you in and they search your clothes to see if you had any sort of bomb.
Okay, so let's move on now.
Also, the thing with border checks, though, I feel like the problems with the actual problem of the migrant crisis, I feel like that wouldn't be solving the migrant crisis. It would be helping, because in general we need border checks. But I feel like there's something that needs to happen to the migrant crisis, because that's like not letting the refugees in. Well, that is, but that's still not solving the actual problem.
Also,
So go to the source of the problem.
more people, the people in the countries need to be happy with refugees coming in. And one way to do that is if ISIS was taken out, they wouldn't be so scared of the refugees being terrorists.
Yeah. If you look at it, these people are putting in ads saying refugees, don't come, you're not welcome, or other people putting walls up just so they don't come in. Some people don't want the refugees at all, period. They just want them.
So go to the source of the migrant
Because
problem.
I forgot what I was gonna say.
I have to agree with Ava on the whole border checks thing. It's going to help the migrant crisis, definitely, and it's going to limit the terrorist flow, but it's not really going to fix it.
And there wouldn't be any refugees if the problem wasn't there. That's the thing. This wouldn't be happening if the problem itself wasn't there.
We need to go to the source.
Yeah.
I think that we all agree that border checks would help them.
They would help, but they wouldn't
Solve the problem.
solve the problem.
well, there isn't one solution that will solve this whole problem. I do agree border checks won't solve the whole problem, but I think we need to do little solutions to solve the whole problem, and border checks could be one of those solutions.
And then
I think we should use border checks first to let all the innocent people in, so the innocent people aren't there, so we can evacuate the innocent people out of that area where then after that we can take out ISIS and stop the problem where they can go back home and be fine.
And also, to add on to that, if you have to take it step by step, because some of the other little problems are smugglers and all these other things. But probably the first little problem we want to use is we want to stop is probably border checks, so we can at least save some people.
Yeah.
And then
All right, you still haven't hit the crux of the problem.
And then if we're gonna keep doing the little steps, taking out smugglers, not taking them out, but like stopping smugglers because they're just making things worse. They're
Well, not
putting
Okay,
them
but
in
you're
not-
still not hitting the crux of the
not
problem.
necessarily, because smugglers not only are they're bad, but they're like Christine. They're giving them safe passage to a place. I mean, it's not safe, but they're not.
It's still passage.
Yeah,
I
they're
think-
not trying to kill them.
also-
They just
Yeah,
want
and-
their money.
Whoa, don't interrupt each other.
I do agree with you. I don't think taking out the smugglers would help because how are the migrants going to get to Europe? But maybe if we like stop the smugglers, but also create a safer way for the migrants to reach Europe.
Also,
Honestly,
adding
the migrants would have to go to the smugglers unless they had a problem. So smugglers wouldn't necessarily be the source.
If you
of
fix the
problem.
migrant crisis, the smuggling problem will go away.
Also,
You're still not
um,
hitting the crux.
Then they don't have money.
For the actual
Listen to how it's proceeding, okay? I mean, you're like working on tiny little details when to really fix it, which is the wording in your question, you need to go to the source of the crisis.
I think a really good way to stop the crisis would be to take out all the problems that are starting it and making people to flee, like the President Assad and the terrorist groups. So taking them out would stop, like, kind of lessen the flood of refugees. So then you wouldn't really need to worry about smugglers as much because there'd be less people on the boat, and also there'd not be as many people coming into the countries.
I agree.
Oh, wait. Everybody needs to get a chance to talk, so if you have done some talking, allow people to come in.
I think the real question that these countries need to ask is like, is it worth it to let all these people in, even though there are dangers of terrorists? Is it worth it to have thousands of refugees come into your country?
Well, that's what you're trying to talk about, how to fix the migrant crisis. So to go, yeah, I mean, Phoenix, I like that you're participating so much, but I don't think you're listening to what other people are saying.
I think that we should take this problem step by step because it's going to be really hard to find one solution to this problem.
True.
And
Also-
we have this, like Evan said, we should probably start with border checks and then maybe go to smugglers and try to stop them.
I think you really need to consider the source of the migrant.
And
Yeah,
I
the
think-
big,
I
the
think-
big
That's
idea-
President Assad and ISIS.
the big idea is taking out the leader and the mastermind who's planning all this. Because if you take them out, then everyone's less coordinated and there's
Nobody's planning a migrant crisis.
no, I know.
Think about where the majority of the migrants are coming from and why they are leaving.
Syria
So if you
war.
go to the source of the problem and try to fix that, the migrant crisis itself would thereby be probably fixed.
stopping the Syrian war.
Also,
Thousands of refugees that are innocent. So we need to find a way to somehow stop the wars in Syria without killing more and more people.
Well, what is that way?
the UN, the United Nations working together would be a good idea because each nation could do something else. So one nation could work on border checks, another one could send supplies, and then another nation could work on the source of the problem.
The thing with the source of the problem, though, is because I know Putin, he isn't like the United States and stuff. I don't know, people don't like us. So I feel like if we were to get him out, I think that Putin, since he's with Assad, I think that would put a lot of trouble on our back, but we still need to fix this. So we have to, I think everyone needs to work together in order to make this work, not just us or not just whoever just doing it, but all of us.
I really agree with you on that because if the U.S. decides to go take out President Assad, and
We have all the
Then-
pressure on us.
then Putin will be just upset with us, and that's one thing that we don't need. And then it's just going to bubble into something way more than a migrant crisis. It's going to get even worse. It's going to be the migrant crisis and
It's gonna be like a global crisis.
yeah,
And then ISIS is still going on. It's going to get even worse.
it's
So
just going to be one big bundled mess.
Well, if we were to take out ISIS, let's just say we were we take them out, we would probably start at the headquarters because then all the other ones are what are we going to do? Our whole headquarters is gone. Then take them out bit by bit. But here's the problem. See, the last time we had some sort of problem like this, we just left after we solved it. We need to kind of stay there Because if we just leave, more terrorist groups are going to come in and do the same exact thing. They're going to follow what basically ISIS did.
Okay, so rather than backtrack to what we did in Iraq, and you're absolutely right, we left a vacuum that was filled by ISIS. If we decided to go and try to stop the Syrian civil war by eliminating Assad, then we would not make that mistake again. How would we not make that mistake again? Who would need to be involved in that?
I think the whole just kind of
Who needs to be in charge of that?
The world needs to group together. Like the world.
The world needs to come together, but who needs to be in charge of it? So think about this. And you've got to have somebody, like maybe one of the Syrian rebels or another Syrian individual who could maybe step up and take the place of Assad with the agreement of the Syrian people. So you really, I mean, if you're going to stop or fix the migrant crisis, that's where you got to start. And we can't do what we did in Iraq. You're right, Phoenix. We
You
have to
have
go
to-
about it differently. So other people need to be in charge. We need to be there. We need to back them up. So does Russia. We need to have a common goal. Now, England and France and other countries are involved in this too, targeting ISIS. But it's Assad that has to do with this.
I believe that if we tried to take out Assad, then I think Vladimir Putin would be not very happy with us and try to start a war with us.
Right, but and I don't think he would, because that would be an unwinnable war. It would just be the destruction of the planet, probably. But what you want to do is, I mean, Putin is also interested in taking out ISIS. Okay, he's bombing ISIS also. And he backs Assad because he understands that what we did in Iraq didn't work. That's why he backs Assad. You put another vacuum in there, take out Assad, there's nobody there, you got another Iraq on your hands.
It's
Okay?
not going to work out because then there will be another terrorist group.
Okay, so you need to talk about what practically should be done. How can Assad be eliminated, which would eliminate most of the migrant crisis?
Is Assad?
Yesterday when we did the individual table groups, our table was discussing that if you try to take out one of the groups like ISIS, you're killing, like try to bomb them, you're also killing a bunch of innocent people. So trying to like get them somewhere where the innocent people are safe, so that you can just take them out like Evan said, that's probably what we need to do as well.
We need to like solve the migrant crisis, but at the same time we want to try to keep peace and not like create another war or something.
Yeah, because Putin, the way I'm looking at it right now, he kind of wants in on defeating ISIS and all this other stuff, because they did like destroy one of his planes.
Also,
That was Syria. Turkey.
That was Turkey. They did destroy Turkey's plane. Like,
Oh, the passenger plane.
yeah, the passenger plane, that one. And Putin's not very happy about it.
also,
But if you just let us handle it, then he's gonna be like, why wasn't I allowed?
Yeah, but that's a really bad idea. It shouldn't be the United States or Russia. We should definitely be backing whomever is going to take this on, because they need our
Support.
they
Our
need our
military
support, they need
support.
our military might. Because once you try to do this, it needs to be accomplished, or you're making things far worse. So it needs to be really thought out. So think about how this could come about, because that's the only way to solve the migrant crisis, is to go to the source of the problem.
In my opinion, I think Syria needs just to have an open election and try to get.
You can't do that
You
without
can't?
doing something first. No, Syria is in chaos.
Well, they could just like they can petition to get an open election.
Are you kidding me? Do you know who you're talking about?
It's kind of like saying
You're already talking like as though it's a democracy already. It's
Like-
not.
the world there's always going to be some sort of problem. You can't just fix it and be at peace. I don't know why that's not possible, but people just
But
won't
think
let it.
about how to make that possible. Think about if done right, it could eliminate many problems.
if
This one first, the migrant crisis problem, could be eliminated in the absence of Assad, but that needs to be done differently.
Taking out Assad would need to be like, you can't just go and bomb them. Like you're
No one suggested that. So
Is
come
some-
up with an idea or
someone
multiple ideas that could eventually and maybe quickly eliminate that part of the problem.
Someone should try and talk to the president, because just trying to kill him would create more wars. People need to reason with him.
That's not going to happen.
Someone in power is never gonna want to give it up. I mean, like right now he's controlling everything and stuff. He's never gonna let someone else do that and kill him.
And again, think about who you're talking about.
Yeah, but that's just
I actually think that if we were to, because the migrant crisis is a really big problem, but if we wanted to work together and maybe get people to help get out the migrant crisis, this probably, I don't know, but if we were to try, because Putin wants ISIS out, so if we were to try to negotiate with him and if we were to be like, okay, we're going to take him out, the United States and Russia, then we would probably, feel not as like, I hate you, we still probably wouldn't like us as much, but then if we were to get ISIS out, and then maybe for some reason Putin would be like, okay, I see what you're saying about Assad, and then he's gone, but...
Should it be the United States and Russia who eliminated
No.
Assad? No.
No, it should be Europe.
It should be one of
Possibly.
It
Okay,
should be
no.
one of the rebels. The rebels.
It needs to be a coalition, but it needs to start with the Middle Eastern countries. The mess that's there now is highly attributable to what we did in Iraq. So we don't want to say, here we come, the mighty United States, the Western powers, together with the Soviets or not, but it can't be that way because we've seen the results. The anti-Western feeling is intensified because of what we've done there already. It has failed. So what we need to do is put it in the hands of the people who live there.
yeah.
There are plenty of them that would band together. So think about going like that way. You guys keep talking about the United States and Russia as though, we're the ones who can solve it. And we could solve it, but we would make the people that are there even more
It
anti-Western.
would be worse. It would make it almost worse.
Okay, talk to each other, don't interrupt.
Support them and not like start it by just bombing them because I think someone there that lives in Syria and stuff, they need to, like how you were saying, band together and sort of start it because it's not really our war. I mean, like
With
we can
ISIS in the
support
mix, it
their
has
weapons,
become a global issue.
But it's more of Syria's and Europe's
The
problem.
migrant
so
crisis
they need to
is
start it.
Syria, for sure. So think about that. I mean, I'm sure there are lots of good minds at work on this problem, not just ours. But think about that, how you put it in the hands of the people who live there, because they would like to solve the problem too.
And we
I
can
think we can't let them. You can't do it because then they'll just get even more pissed off. It'll just double their size of amount of people that want to kill the Westerners. So we have to put it in the hands of the people there. Give them supplies. Just support them. We can't go in this, or else we're squaring ourselves and the rest of the world too, basically.
Or we can be involved, but maybe not the first line of
And
defense.
we can help them by maybe like arming them or like giving them some supplies so they can maybe take them out.
We've tried that too. And so as soon as ISIS confronted the Iraqi army, whom we trained and supplied before we left, the Iraqi army turned and fled, and ISIS got all of our stuff.
Why did you
They were afraid. ISIS is formidable.
And if you give weapons to them, you don't know if you're giving them to terrorists or just to refugees.
I think
They could use them in the wrong way. Nick was saying they could use it against us.
Okay, so you guys have like about 7 minutes or so. So think about your conclusion. Think about the focus on Assad and Syria, and think about how you would solve that problem.
I believe that a good conclusion would be, instead of thinking about fixing all the things that are happening from the problem, you need to go in and take out Assad and get in a new ruler and a democracy.
Democracy would be something to hope for, but getting in a new Syrian ruler?
It's hard.
No, that's got to be the way.
How long has Assad been in there?
Long time.
It's the only way to stop the war because it's going to help a lot at least because getting rid of Assad is going to fix like a lot of problems.
Yeah, all the little
And
minor
then
problems.
put one of the people who's actually like, hey, I'm not going to let any of this stuff happen again. We're just not going to kill each other and let ISIS take us over. You can't let Assad stay there any longer. He needs to go.
Don't look at me, Phoenix, look at all the people, because you're making really good sense.
We need a way to get Assad out and someone else.
But don't you
that's
think
gonna
that there
be
are
the hard
Syrians who would be more than willing and able and capable of, like Phoenix says, formulating peace? Like a Syrian. It needs to be Syrian.
part. Yeah, but how are we gonna get a Syrian?
There's plenty of them. Look at all the rebels. They have leaders.
And they have, and if they can at least get like one shot at killing Assad, they can become the leader of.
Yeah, but then there's still
It's
ISIS.
gonna get hard for Assad to
It is
get out of
hard.
power.
It is hard, but it's possible.
Yeah,
So
it's
it
gonna
is.
be.
It's going to be a really difficult task for them to do, but it is possible. It is very possible.
I do think taking out Assad would really help because we don't need to worry about smugglers and border checks, the little things.
Yeah.
Taking out Assad will make all those little things just go away.
But there's still gonna be one problem. Like how would they decide who would be the leader of Syria? Because they could form a big argument over that, and that could like start a small civil war.
So shouldn't, well, this is a
Well, then they-
almost 5-year-old civil war. So don't you think that the rebels at least, and maybe the Syrian people have ideas about who they want to lead their
And
country?
maybe
They
like
could have like a debate between what
Or
we do in
just,
the American
if they knew who it was going to be, who would take the place of Assad, the transition would be smooth and easy.
and then
Leaders are assassinated and killed and all that all the time.
And then if they already have like their leader planned out, because see, there's those rebel groups, and normally they have some sort of leader. So maybe the leader who takes Assad's place can be one of them, because if they're already a leader of some sort of other group, they can make a good leader for maybe the country.
Possibly, but then isn't there still ISIS? I know, like,
ISIS is a
once
separate
they-
issue, but if
Once they
you're talking
take-
about the migrant crisis
Once
and you're
they take control, they can easily just get ISIS.
ISIS is not the main problem of the
Yeah.
migrant crisis, though, and I think that's
Assad.
And I think we need to have another conversation about ISIS and how to handle that. If you
Yeah.
solve the Syrian problem, you can solve the migrant crisis. That really, you're not solving ISIS, but if this gets fixed, then the world can tackle ISIS. And there's a lot of good ideas around that topic.
ISIS is like they're like a portion of the problem. They're part of the problem, but if we took out ISIS, I think we would quickly realize that there would still be problems to solve.
like Assad.
Yeah.
So taking him out first would be the big deal, because if you take out ISIS first, like you said, there's still problems, but if you take out Assad, then you're eliminating so many of the problems that we have.
I agree with Sabina because Assad is fighting against ISIS and the rebels, but if ISIS gets taken out, then he'll have one less problem. So his armies will all be going against the rebels. But if we take out him first, then he won't be there there won't be anyone to fight the rebels.
I agree with Maddie. She makes a really good point because, you can totally take out ISIS and yeah, that'll stop a lot of problems, but
You can't totally
then,
take
okay, for the most part.
No, that's a global issue, but it can be done.
It can be done, but then Assad is focusing some of his energy towards ISIS right now, allowing Syrian rebels to get an edge. But if ISIS is gone, Assad can aim all his military force towards the rebels, and then we have a whole nother
So do we
issue.
agree then that Assad should go first?
Yes. And if Assad does go first, if a rebel leader takes his place, then doesn't that rebel leader have the whole army Assad had?
Yes.
You think he can just go in, they can just go in, and they can just take care of ISIS, or maybe not. But that's
Not
a
by
whole
themselves.
that's a whole different issue. But the main thing is Assad needs to go before anybody.
Like
Not
Phoenix.
ISIS, not smugglers. We don't need border checks. Those are all smaller than taking out Assad.
But if
Like
we
real
take out
problem.
Assad,
If
Yeah.
Assad's gone, then most of the problem's gone. Then there's
Yeah.
still the little
So you
things.
just agreed with Phoenix?
Yeah, I totally agree
Good.
with Phoenix.
If you take out the ISIS, well, sure, you solve a lot of problems, but you take out Assad, you solve way more than taking out
I think we
90%
should
of the
go
problem.
Assad then ISIS because some of the refugees are not just coming from Syria. Some of them are coming from other Middle Eastern countries.
And Africa. We haven't even
Yeah, and
talked about
Africa,
that.
so-
But to solve this crisis, I think you guys really have nailed that in terms of what needs to be done first. And then those little things, like Phoenix said, will not be issues.
There's always going to be bad people, like small smugglers in the world. So.
All right, good job, you guys. We'll